It's 9 o'clock. This is a regular meeting of Mills County Commissioners Court. All members of the court are present, constituting a quorum. So if everyone would join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Williams, would you lead us in prayer?
Yes. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you have granted us. Thank you for this county that we live in. Bless this Commissioner's Court as we do the business of Mills County this morning. Be with the many people in Mills County who are sick and have ailments and with their families. We've heard many this morning. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let me start with reminding the court to please speak into your microphones, and as we have people address the court, we have a portable microphone. If you would come up and grab it, it'll be better for the YouTube audience. So with that, the second item on the agenda now is the review and act on the minutes of August 2nd. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes?
Nobody has any corrections. I move we accept them as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of August 2nd by Commissioner Guerin, second by Commissioner Williams. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Audience with individuals. We've had two people signed up to speak. Sheriff Clint Hammond to address public comment, and Clerk Folk to address budget. You want to speak now or at some later point in the meeting?
Judge, it's all right. I'll just wait till we get down to that point in the agenda.
You mean the budget discussion?
Correct.
Okay, Sheriff Hammond.
Just my comments are related to the upcoming budget.
Okay, Sheriff Hammond, how about yourself?
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm ready right now.
Okay, look, if you would grab the microphone.
That'll
please.
be short, sweet, off, speak loud enough. Basically, I just have a public information request for emails between the judge's office and Mr. Cobb, that's in charge of the EMS services over in Hamilton from June 3rd up to this day. And I'm just submitting it on the record for the court.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda, we have the monthly departmental reports. First item, this is consent agenda. We have the monthly treasurer's report. You see the first pages list the fund balances at the beginning and end of the month. On the second page, you see also in fund categories, the investment component of the funds. This is in addition to the fund balances on the first page. So the total fund balance would be the checking account fund on the first page plus the investment on the second page. And then there is the county indebtedness schedule, which is limited to the law enforcement center bonds. The accounts payable report was distributed electronically Friday. Were there any questions on it from commissioners?
Well, I did not seem to get mine, so I was going through it this morning, thinking I was going to get on email, but I didn't. So.
Okay.
But that seemed like everybody else got a printed copy, but wasn't in my packet. So.
I read mine electronically over the weekend. I didn't see anything. We'll come back to that, give you a chance to look through it. The next item down is the Mills Central Appraisal District monthly collection report. You can see the collections total for the year, both on County tax and road and bridge, and down there at the bottom, we're just over 99%, and then it's 99.1 or 0.2, depending on how you measure it. We budgeted 99.5, so it looks like we're on track. If you look down the uncollected column, you'll see a total of, on the county side, of $352,000, 51,000. And that relates to last year. If you go up to 2019, you'll see uncollected taxes of 311,000. That is the ongoing dispute on the on-court valuation. So it's not in the current year's numbers. It's not budgeted in the current year, but it's a number that's out there. I have no new information on the timing of that appeal. County clerk report, and see totals of $9,985, largely fines and filing fees. And behind it, you see the monthly report from the district clerk, which is a total of $4,700 rounded, which again is mostly fines. There's a tax assessor collector report. I think I skipped it. The August collections were 120,000 rounded of total funds through the office, with 45,432 retained by the county. The extension office report, let's see, mileage for the month, primarily judging in San Angelo and a conference in San Antonio, and then upcoming events on the next page in August, primarily the beef conference and the sheep and goat expo. The sheriff's office report, it's not total, but the total calls for service for the month of 331. Going down the list, you can see EMS is 20% of it. Sheriff Department's calls are 71%. Fires 3.5%, rounded 3.5%. DPS is 4.5%. At the bottom, you'll see the out-of-county prisoner boarding for the month. This is the month of July, 26,300, with 17,700 of that coming from Coryell County. There's a multi-page justice peace report. The highlight, the columns, a number on the left-hand side. If you look at line 2, there's new cases filed, 87 in the non-parking traffic category and 9 in other state law. You can see down line 10, dispositions, 51 in non-traffic and 11 in other state, and that leaves the cases pending at the end of the month on line 12. Next page is civil cases. You can see new cases filed, 3 debt claims and 1 in small claims court. You can see dispositions of 8 debt claims, 1 small claims, and 1 landlord tenant issue. The juvenile page is zeros. And on the last page, the additional activity, a couple of things to point to. The magistrations total 20. It's a mixture of felonies and misdemeanors, and 9 people requested attorneys appointed under our indigent defense program. At the bottom of the page, you see collections. Total collections 14,532, with 9,465 retained by Mills County. There's a report from the county judge's office on receipts. His slow month. Historical book sales 170, senior center rental of 100, and coincidentally, this is the first month in a while where we have had no septic permits issued. The Hamilton EMS report did not come in time for the package. We'll have that next week. The Veteran Service Officer report. Let's see, it's 2 pages. The totals are on the second page. There's work for 10 veterans on matters for 10 veterans that are detailed there, and a total of 28 hours spent on it. So that's the consent agenda. Absent, we skipped a little bit on the payables. Commissioner Williams, did you have a chance?
No, that's good.
Okay, so are there any questions on the consent agenda? And if not, I accept the motion for approval.
So moved.
We have a motion for approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll approve the consent agenda. Number 4, consider an act on setting the sheriff's office fees for 2022. There's a local government code quote. This is, I can summarize it. Sheriff, would you prefer to speak to it yourself?
Those fees, get set for several years, it's standard, every year to be approved by the court. We've not changed the fees, so it's all civil process stuff that we serve, nothing's going to change.
The issue is the statute requires the court to approve these fees annually. There's a calendar schedule. These then go to the Secretary of, I think it's the Secretary of State. It's one of the state agencies. They post it statewide on a website that assists attorneys in collecting the proper fees as they do business across the state. The statute says the fees are supposed to reflect your cost. I put in the package a schedule of these fees in the surrounding counties, and admittedly, it's fine print. It's hard to read. The second page of it, I tried to blow up just a couple of counties: Mills, Coleman, and San Saba. The sheriff's correct in saying that these fees are unchanged for a couple of years. My suggestion to the court was we consider some increases, because the statute says the fees are supposed to reflect our cost, and clearly the cost of the sheriff's department has gone up over the last several years. So it seems reasonable that our fees should go up.
Sheriff, you happy with the fees?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the fees as presented by the sheriff's office.
Okay, Commissioner Wright has a motion to approve the fees as presented. Is there a second? Okay, what?
So, I'm still looking at your list here.
Okay, well,
We're
we have a motion on the floor, so it either dies for the lack of a second, or somebody seconds it, we move on to discussion. So there being no second to Commissioner Wright's motion, let's go further with the discussion. Commissioner Williams.
I was just looking these over. Some counties are, I don't know how you would tell, I don't know how you would tell if we were low or high on some of these. Some of them are a lot higher, but then some of them are a lot lower. So does this goes through the JP's court? Is that where the fees are collected? No, it's collected through the clerk's office.
I don't know, I think so. I don't know.
Just questioning. The big one that seems to stand out is that writ of attachment. We have 150 and a lot of them have 200, 250.
Yes. Yeah, what jumped out at me was just comparing Mills County to say Coleman or San Saba. And like you say, some of them are higher, some of them are lower, but if this is supposed to reflect our cost, I mean, first of all, this doesn't do much for the county one way or the other because the prior courts have, I believe, dedicated these fees to the sheriff's special use. So if something's being shorted here, it's the sheriff's special use fund. But the idea that the budget goes up and the fees don't just seemed a little inconsistent.
I don't quite understand why some of them go down compared to ours and some go up.
Well, I mean, one approach we could take, although I don't know the administration on who collects these and how they're collected. Some of them are based, other counties use mileage, reimbursements as part of the fees. I mean, we could just say, okay, let's increase them all by 3% or 5% or some number to reflect the cost of doing business. But then you end up with a bunch of odd numbers and I don't know. Okay, the clerk's shaking her head, so that's a problem.
It's not a problem, it's just, it's easier to deal with round numbers. We build the fee codes in there for subpoenas and summons and just reprogramming our system too. Which is doable, very doable. I just, when you get a call for how much is it to issue a subpoena or the cost of a precept, instead of saying it's, $86.95, it's a lot easier to say it's 85 or 90.
So you're saying if somebody gets a subpoena or summons, it costs $85?
They don't pay at the time of, you pay it when the judgment happens. There may be fees you collect upfront, I don't know.
Sheriff, are any of these fees collected directly by your staff?
At times they send us the check and we bring it straight to the clerk.
Judge, I move we table this for next time and let county clerk and maybe the treasurer, somebody go over it in more detail, come up with recommendations.
Okay, I think we have time. I believe this has to get done by the 1st of October is my recollection. Does anybody have any specific knowledge on the required dates that this has to be submitted? Okay. Well, we have a motion to table. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? One nay. 4 ayes. Okay.
We'll put this on Monday's agenda.
Yeah, we'll put it on the agenda for next week. Okay, number 5, consider an act on engagement for Eckert and Company. This is the annual audit. This is our audit firm. This would be for the year ending September 30th, 2021. It's the same engagement letter, I believe, that has been used for the last, well, since we started hiring Eckert. There's no fee in this. They carefully say it's based on, time and expenses. The budget on this is approximately $25,000. The actual cost over the last several years have been in that ballpark. Most of the work is done on site. I don't want to, the court should approve the judge's execution of the engagement, because once we've engaged them, we're on the hook. I propose to expand the engagement letter slightly to include the audit of the commissary fund. This is something that is supposed to be reviewed by the auditors annually at least, and it's under the local government code 351-0415. I can't see that that's been done in the past, but with that expansion of this engagement letter, I would propose the court approve. Yeah, good point. And anything.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, let me do a better job. I move approval of the Eckert and Company engagement letter for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2021, with expansion of the scope to include the commissary fund.
I'll say it.
Okay,
It was a second.
I think I heard,
Jed.
okay, Commissioner Vera. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Can I just ask a question while we're doing that one special fund and not all special funds?
I don't
I
understand.
think they do already do some sort of something with commissary fund, but if we did the commissary fund, should we not do tax assessor's office? Like as a special fund?
Okay.
I don't recall ever receiving a report on the commissary fund.
I think in the back of my mind, Trina says she sends on their regular conciliations. Now I can come out plain today, but I just think that in the back of my mind was.
Well, we
So
have,
But she wants to also do the vehicle registration.
okay,
Well, and Sonia has a special fund and
okay, let's back up. We had a motion, we had a second, we haven't voted, we were in discussion. Let me rephrase my motion. And that would be to approve the Eckert and Company engagement letter for the audit of Mills County fiscal year ending September 30, 2021, with the scope to specifically include all funds, including the commissary fund. So that would include all the special use funds.
That's just an amendment to your motion, start with.
Yeah, I just restated my motion, changed it. Since we hadn't voted on it, I withdrew it. Would you prefer to approach it some other way, Commissioner? Okay, so we have a new motion.
I will second.
We have a second for the new motion from Commissioner Williams. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Number 6. Consider possible action on ban on outdoor burning. It's August. Usually we're a month or 6 weeks into a burn ban by now. We haven't needed this. It's been on the agenda every time. It's now been over a week since last rain. It's hot and windy. I talked to David Swartz last night. They have not had a lot of brush fires, and the fuel sources have been moist enough that the ones they have had have not run severely, but he's noticing a daily drying out of fuel sources, and it's just a matter of time. So, you know, I don't want to put words in David's mouth, but I think the implication was it's not critically important now. It will be very soon, and they would appreciate it. Have any of the rest of the court had feedback from?
That's all his standards from starting. He thought maybe another week.
It's supposed to start running too. Supposed to start running next week.
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so
Just table it.
we will take no action and we'll put it on the agenda for Monday.
Who moved to table that?
Well, did somebody move the table?
I did.
Okay, Commissioner Williams moved the table. Is there a second?
Also,
Commissioner Guerin seconds. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Number 7 is special budget amendment surplus funds from TAC County Health Insurance. This is an annual reimbursement from TAC based on experience. The county received $15,775. This is not budgeted. This is out of the blue, if you will, like insurance proceeds. So this is what's proposed here is a special budget amendment to accept this in the general fund. Ms. Campbell, did I state that correctly?
I make a motion that we approve the special budget amendment for the surplus of the TAC County.
We have a motion from
I'll
Commissioner
second.
Williams. We have a second, Commissioner Guerin. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Number 8, consider an act on a line item budget transfers.
Judge, does that include mine also line budget?
The one we're doing now is, that was a special budget amendment. Yours is the next one, which is
Gotcha.
number 8. Yeah. So now this, yeah, this is a precinct 1 matter, transferring $3,000 from miscellaneous to repairs and supplies. Commissioner Wright, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, I'm over on the Paris line in the red over $1,000. And move some money around and have the money that kind of reason to put it in miscellaneous expenses. I had to unexpected maintainer cost $9,000 repair. So took a lot of the money out of the budget for repairs. So
I'd move approval of the line item transfer in precinct 1 of $3,000.
So moved.
Okay, I moved, so
Okay, I'll second.
Commissioner Williams seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, number 9 is consider an act on the final plat Indian Springs 3. In your package is a letter that the county attorney and I and Commissioner Parkman received from an attorney representing Indian Springs. We're taking the position that we were, as you recall, we were following verbatim the requirements in the 1985 subdivision ordinance, which required a bond for the cost of the improvements. Then it required inspection upon completion by the commissioner and an engineer, and then the recording of the final plat and related documents. The attorney for Indian Springs has represented that we do not have the authority, our ordinance notwithstanding, we do not have the authority under the state code, which is 232, to require both the bond and completion, and the bond was properly posted and approved by the court. Our county attorney's unfortunately not present, but Gerald Hale has told me verbally that he agrees and believes that his recommendation to the court is that we approve the recording, because we've already expressed our intent to approve upon completion. So we go ahead and approve the recording the final plat. I know that we have representatives from Indian Springs in the audience. If there are any questions from the court, I certainly open the floor.
I don't see how you approve the final plat when it has not been completed. I don't see how you can approve the final plat if it has not been completed, but, my understanding is what they're saying is by the state law, a final plat does not really mean a final plat.
Well, speaking for the county, absent county attorney, it is, we have a completion and payment bond for the road and drainage improvements, which the court accepted the amount and the bond. And therefore, if the improvements are not completed, we have a theoretically financially responsible third party to go to for the cost of completion. And therefore, there was no statutory ability to withhold the recording of the plat until the work gets actually done, because there, in effect, we have a guarantee that it will be done. That's the attorney's position. And I see Commissioner Parkman looking at some of the statute. There's a related part of the statute that we'll address when we maybe take up subdivisions next time, that says by order of the court, we can require certain things on groundwater. That's not in our current ordinance, but it is in the state law. And that's probably somewhere we need to go. The lesson I'd take here is that we're working literally within the 1985 ordinance and running into issues that it either overreaches the state law, or the state law has evolved since 1985, and it just underscores the need to bring it up today.
I make a motion that we approve the final plat of Indian Springs 3 subdivision
For recording,
for recording.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Commissioner Parkin is opposed. Okay. Number 10, consider an act on Mcad board reorganization.
Can I speak on this, Judge?
You may.
Or do you want to?
Well,
Go first.
we probably both will, but you're on the board, so go ahead.
So, this reorganization of the Mcad board was brought up by Jim Runyon back in October of last year. The statute says you can't reorganize the board until after the new year and before August the 15th of that year. And so, if y'all remember the court, we did some reshuffling and stuff to make us compatible or to this, the organization of the Mcad. And so it's been pushed and pushed back and pushed back, and finally it got brought to the board last Tuesday. You actually have a letter from Cody in your packet on August 3rd. That's actually when we met. It was a long meeting during the lunch hour. And then it was brought to our, again, the biggest problem is goes back to when Goldthwaite consolidated with Star, or Star consolidated, we refer to it, Star consolidated with Star ISD. When that happened in October, and they gave Mills County that third, or gave us the Star representative. Well, when that happened in October, that was a reorganization of the board, which is, again, by statute from the beginning, you can't do it after August the 15th. So the whole organization of the board has not been correct since since 2014. So we corrected it on this, based on the way it should have gone. Goldthwaite ISD should have always gotten the star representative area. And it didn't happen at that time, but if you're looking at your organization here, it also, on that page 2 of it, it says residential requirements. It goes down there, and it is giving that star representative back to Goldthwaite Consolidated Independent School District, taking it away from Mills County appointment. But it states in there that shall reside in Mills County and within the geographical boundaries of the Star Independent District, and those boundaries that were prior to the consolidation of Goldthwaite. So where we took on and we made that handshake promise years ago, the board still agreed that we should keep that handshake promise with Star. They put that in the writing.
Wasn't there a little more to that, the reason for that agreement being the way it was at the time?
Yes, and I'm not, there's no written stuff, but at that time, Star ISD did not fully trust Goldthwaite ISD, but there's nothing written down on that. It was just given to us so that we would solve that issue. 2 board members, the Mullen and the Purdy ISD, wanted Mills County to have it at that time, and they voted to do that. The other night, they voted that it should be when Star consolidated with Goldthwaite, if you're following me, they consolidated with Goldthwaite. So they gave their consent to Goldthwaite ISD to join. So that the lawyer is stating that really they should have gotten that extra vote, not Mills County. There's no legal expectation to that, but Star joined Mills County. Joined Goldthwaite ISD, if you're following what I'm saying. And the board still remains the same. We talked about adding members, because you can add up to 13. That quickly was discussed. The original, back when Jim Runyon brought this to the board, wanted Mullen as a taxing entity. The city of Mullen wanted them on the board. We were having a very hard time finding any representation from city of Mullen, which is what I'm hearing is no surprise, is what that is. And the reason the city of Mullen wasn't on the original back in 1987 is because at that time, Mullen was not an incorporated city. So that's why they weren't put on the appraisal board. But within the year or 6 months after that, they did become incorporated. But they never changed and reorganized to put the city of Mullen as a taxing entity on the board. So we discussed also about whether we should, if we put Mullen on there, you have an odd number. You could make the tiebreaker person be our chief appraiser. And after discussion on that, it was that we did not want that to happen. So where would you get, who would get the next number or whatever, then that becomes an issue because statute has changed now. If you go by the number of amount of money that each district gets and you divide the calculations and stuff, then you're required to go to a 5-member board. If you go to a 5-member board and you go by the numbers, Goldthwaite ISD gets 3, Mills County gets 2, and then nobody else is represented on the board. So Mullen and Pretty and Star would not be represented on the board anymore in those geographical areas. If you went by the count, we wanted it to remain that there were still representations from those areas. And so this is the new organization, where it's really pretty much the same. as it was before with the correction of the wording on residential requirements on that table. It actually states that Gold Way ISD, they have to be in that school district. So you couldn't put a representative for Gold Way ISD that was in the previous school district, where it didn't say that before. It just said a member of Mills County. And so it was assumed that that would happen, but assumption is not there. So it was corrected and put on this. So now I'll answer any questions anybody might have.
So goes away ISD outside the one at Star, Mullen and Pretty have no restrictions on where they live.
They do now.
Didn't say that here.
On that table on page 2, on that table on page 2, it says that.
Okay. It didn't say that on the first page.
And so the original, the one that started it all, it said that, it narrowed down Mills County's representation to certain areas and different places.
Right.
And my complaint is if you're gonna do Mills County, then everybody has to have their geographical destinations. And so, and the whole board agreed on that. And this was voted unanimously.
What has the board decided on this, Jason? The president board?
Yeah, we've all voted unanimously to accept this record. This one is presented to you.
Gotcha.
But I went back and looked at the motion from 2014 that assigned the appointment of Star resident to Mills County. And that was made and seconded by, let's see. Danny Cox and Bud West. So those two guys made the motion to do it the way it's done. And now they're unanimously voting to change it because that's not what they intended. Because their memory's improved in what's it been?
I don't know the
10
reason.
years.
I can't vouch for the reason what they changed, from that.
You don't think this is because we objected or asked questions about the budget and nobody else did?
I don't know. It could be that they don't like one of us up here on this commissioner's board. You never know.
The timing's coincidental.
But all I know is that we made a handshake agreement that we would keep somebody from the Star area, and that's what I fought to keep on that board. And J.C. Mason was in agreement of that, to keep somebody from that Star area, who was the representatives we have.
Okay, is that all, Commissioner Williams?
That's all I have.
Okay, yeah, what I had was almost like point and counterpoint. This board resolution, from the appraisal district takes place, goes into effect unless one of the entities objects to it by resolution, and has to be done by, I want to say, September 1st. So in your package, I've drafted a resolution objecting to it, pointing out that two of the current board members actually set it up the way it's working now. And the only thing that's changed in the meantime, and we have lived up to it, had people from Star appointed by the county to serve on the board. And the only thing that's changed is that we objected to their budget. And that, this is taking appointment of people and giving it to entities that do not appear to be paying attention to what the appraisal district is or isn't doing. So anyway, Is there a motion?
For the board or for the resolution?
Well, I guess you're a good point, Commissioner Wright. We would take a motion to pass and a majority vote to pass a resolution opposing. It would take, I don't think we even need to take action to let it happen. Is that correct, Commissioner Williams?
That's the way I understand it, yes, sir.
Yeah, so if the court
If you
does
reject
nothing, the resolution approved by the Appraisal District Board takes place. If the court opposes it by passing a resolution and delivering it to the Secretary of the Board, then it doesn't. Those are the choices. There's no,
So again, this has to go before every school district. And Mullen's not on there, so Mullen School District, every entity, if they fail to pass it or take a resolution, then it fails. So it doesn't have to be just us, it could be if Purdy doesn't like,
Right.
quite having 3 members on there, they can make a resolution.
but that's only if the school district happened to have a meeting that occurs before September 1st.
I think all of them are scheduled to happen. Now, whether it's put on the agenda is a different story. Because that was one of the reasons we had to call meetings so early, so that we make sure it got on everybody's agenda.
Any other questions? Well, just to get this thing on the table, and since I drafted the resolution in opposition, I move approval of a resolution objecting to the change in objecting to the Appraisal District Board reorganization as presented.
Also,
We have a motion and a second, so let's vote on that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. That's 2. All opposed? 3 nays, motion fails. So now we can just leave it at that.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the board's recommendation on the reorganization.
It's not necessary, but you've made the motion.
I'll say that.
We have a second. Any discussion, the discussion I put forth is it's unnecessary, but with that, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of Commissioner Wright's motion, in favor of the Appraisal District Board resolution, say aye. We have, what do we have, 2 ayes?
No, hang on. I thought the last vote was on the resolution.
The prior vote was on the resolution in opposition
Okay,
to the reorganization, and that resolution failed
for the approval of
by
the,
the 3-2 vote. Now, that then Commissioner Wright has moved that we approve the resolution which the Appraisal District has already approved for the board resolution. And that's what we were just voting on. And I heard, let's see, I think
I voted yes.
we had a yes.
Yes.
So we have 3 yeses, I'm a nay.
I'm a,
Okay, so that vote passes 3-2. Got that, Ms. Scott? Okay, number 11, discussion of proposed county budget. Before we jump into this, Clerk Folk had asked to speak. We have a microphone up here.
I probably won't need one. I'm about as loud as the sheriff. I'll be very brief. Court recall last week I was here on behalf of the sheriff requesting an appeal of the grievance and requesting a new grievance hearing. Since that time, there's been no response from the court or from the judge's office setting that grievance. And since any action I might take to further that request would necessarily affect the budget and possibly delay the budget, I just want that out there so you can discuss it in the this part of your court when you're discussing the budget. So, I mean, we need a new grievance hearing set. It's a very simple procedure. It just has not been done yet. So I'm hoping I don't have to take action, but any action I take would materially affect the resolution of the budget.
Judge, Falk, can I ask you a question? So
Sure.
I've read the grievance committee statute, and it says only one grievance hearing per year.
The AG's opinion says one appeal of that decision. So you have one hearing, but you also have the right to an appeal. And that was what my letter last week was submitted to the court, was for that appeal.
Because I contacted TAP and talked to a lady down there in this tower, and she says that appeal, that grievance hearing is the appeal.
There's an AG opinion. I'll be happy to give you the site. That's subsequent to a hearing for the grievance committee, especially in a situation when the full committee didn't meet. We had a situation where only 6 of the 9 members were present, which inherently there was going to be no decision that was possible at that point in time. But there is an AG opinion.
There's no law saying that they all 9 have to be there.
That's true.
Because we can't require.
No, that's true,
So-
but that's the reason why you're entitled to an appeal. The letter that I gave the court last week cited the AG's opinion that said they shall be entitled to one appeal. And that was a situation dealing with appeals after the initial grievance process.
Well, I'm gonna contact Ms. Howard because she's understanding. She informed me that that was the grievance is the appeal.
You might ask Ms. Howard to check with the Attorney General, because like I said, the site's in the letter.
Well,
I don't make it up. So I would have to take some action.
Well, if you know, the county attorney and I have discussed this, and it's basically the same conclusion that Commissioner Williams has gotten from TAC. So if there's clear and convincing legal arguments, would you please make it to the county attorney?
I've already talked to the county attorney, and he's agreed with me that we are entitled to an appeal. And he said he would not be representing the county should I decide to go forward in enforcing that action by the AG. I mean, it's up to the court.
Unfortunately, he is not present, and that's not what I'm hearing from him. So let's,
Yeah.
you know,
No. Let me be perfectly clear. I'm not going to play this because we're under certain set deadlines. You're under deadlines to approve the budget. Once that budget is approved, it's a moot issue as far as what the salary is going to be, because you can't change it after the approval of the budget. So the court can decide whether they want to argue this in the district court or not. But that is really the only option. I think I'm on all fours. I've got an absolute AG opinion that says we're entitled to one appeal. If y'all think otherwise,
I just don't know what the lawyer told me.
This is
Thank
not a
you, Mr.
discussion item anyway.
this,
The approach to the court, we don't need to be discussing.
right.
This
This is now threatened litigation. It would be an executive session with our counsel. Thank you very much, Mr. Fulton.
okay, well, it's not a threat of litigation, it's a promise.
Okay. Discussion of county budget. What we talked about doing was breaking the budget up into bite-sized pieces, and what to discuss in a series of meetings, and what I've set up for today was to discuss the precinct, the road budgets. And then next Monday, we'll tackle the other big component of the county, which is law enforcement and jail. But what I've put in your package is a multi-year comparison that takes all of the, to look at the big picture, all of the precincts, 1 through 4 plus road and bridge, and look at the expenses from 2016, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, the budget for the current year, the budget for last year, the budget for the current year, 9 months through June, which doesn't really show much, and then the proposed budget for next year. And then behind that is just the inventory schedule that we use with our insurance company on all the road equipment we have in precincts and road and bridge. So to me, the interesting point, I mean, I've tried to group it because there's so many line items. But if you look at the labor cost across the years, then there's a section for other stuff, which includes fuel, oil, tires, materials, training. Then there's a section on equipment, which includes note payments because that's on equipment. And you can see how we've done that over the years. And then at the very bottom, you can see, our current county road inventory is approximately 440 miles of road. I looked at the road, what the county has budgeted or spent on roads by mile, year by year, going back. And the point I'd like to make in the current budget is to stick with big numbers. We're proposing to spend a little over $3,000 a mile on roads. Currently, last year it was 2,300. Going all the way back, the oldest number here, it's around 1,800, 1,900 a mile. So significant, almost a 1/3 increase in spending on roads in this proposed budget. And you can see it's largely in labor and materials. It's and equipment. So the details are in the detailed budget you guys got last week, and I just throw it open to discussion.
I have a couple questions in. For the road and bridge.
Yeah,
What is the $106,560 for overtime?
that figured 10 hours a week of overtime for every road hand. And it's in road and bridge because there is some recognition that the work's going to get done unevenly. And I didn't want to have or propose, if we put it in the precincts and one precinct uses it and one doesn't, the county doesn't get the benefit. By putting it all in road and bridge, it's all there. The part that's missing in this, because it's not a budget issue, is we need some way for the commissioners to decide how to spend the road and bridge overtime budget, how to spend the road and bridge material budget and get things done. Whether it's throwing a group of people across precincts at big projects to get them done, or whether it's dividing it up and everybody does something, to me, financially, it doesn't matter.
How much in the past has overtime been spent by precincts?
There's been no overtime budget that I can find in the past at all. I believe it's been done through comp time or something else. This is cash overtime.
What I try to do with my guys, I don't know how the old precincts have it, but it's a choice of that individual. If we have to have overtime, whether he wants to take cash or whether he wants to take time off at the same cost. So
Well, I didn't know we had that option of giving them cash. I don't know we had that option of giving them cash. It's always comp time. This is actually giving them the option of,
that's up to the individual commissioner, is it not? If they pay them or not pay them.
well, what he's saying is he's putting it in the budget for us to do that if we want to. It's not saying we have to do that.
If your guys want to make some more money, here's a way to do it. If they're comp time, we don't get more than, over the long run, the 40 hours a week done for the county. This is a way to get an extra 10 hours a week done for the county and get more work done on our roads, at the same time giving them financial reward for doing it.
So that number stays in road and bridge unless we
Approve
Approved.
We'll spend it, yeah, unless they actually work the overtime.
So how does that work in our budget, not having it in our budget for this overtime?
It would come out of road and bridge for the overtime.
You still have your comp time or availability in your actual budget. This is on top of.
Where would that be under in our budget?
Well, it's just under your salaries.
Sometimes not, the budget's cash.
Well, to me,
And sometimes not cash.
I didn't realize we could spend money that wasn't in our budget.
It's in the, you can't spend, we cannot spend money in the county that's not budgeted. This is budgeted in road and bridge. So it's gonna be an issue of how we determine to spend money out of road and bridge versus out of the precincts. And that happens right now. I mean, rock crusher is an example of that.
In that case, Jason has 325,000 under equipment in his budget. And also in the road and bridge, he's got $493,619.75 in road and bridge. Now, which one do we use on that number? Each other precinct has $168,619,
Yeah,
$168,619.75.
what's in the budget without getting into the numbers specifically was a maintainer in one precinct. That's in a precinct.
That's
All the other equipment that was discussed, and that was things like haul trailers, water trucks, is in road and bridge,
So
where it could be shared equipment.
you have to move, you have to transfer that money over. So that money,
That's what I'm saying.
Is in there.
Whether it's in overtime or whether it's in equipment, it has to be in your budget for you to be able to spend it.
right.
But it's in road and bridge.
So
So I want to know how that works.
Well, there's a lot of ways it could work, but one way would be we charge the overtime to road and bridge. Another way would be that we do a line item transfer to move the budgeted, a line item transfer moves budgeted money from one bucket to another, like you just did.
Correct.
We take it from road and bridge and move it to the precinct that's incurred in their overtime. But as we sit here in August of 2021, it's a guess as to which precincts will be incurring the overtime and doing the work.
Well, if that's the case, why don't you divide it evenly between the 4 precincts and turn it back if we don't use it?
Because if one precinct doesn't use it, I think that, in my view, is we want to improve the infrastructure in the county. And if one precinct doesn't get around to doing it, rather than let it not get done and just sit in surplus, I want to be able to have some other precinct that is doing the work, be able to use it too, because it's the whole county paying taxes. And that way, at least the money gets spent on the infrastructure in the county.
Okay. Answer the equipment issue then. And it's got the 325,000 in road and bridge for his maintainer, and also has the 325,000 in his budget.
it has to, the money has to go into transfers, then it's transferred into my budget to make it equal. Because I don't have that much. If you look, I only have 114.
114. Where's that?
What was on your, where you're talking about on transfers on 924?
Yeah, on the transfers, got 493,619.75.
That, yes, that has to go, that's where the money's coming out of the road and bridge.
The actual experience,
Money.
114 is what you actually experience through union expenses.
The one thing that comes into road and bridge is the road and bridge tax. And that money is divided by 4 and pushed out as transfer.
Well, that's what it shows.
And then there's the additional money that if we're going to put, and then, this is a different decision. Let's say we're buying a maintainer and it costs us enough money in precinct 4. We got to move the money to precinct 4 to get that maintained.
So go to the next, or the page before that says precinct 4. Page 12.
Gotcha.
That same figure is up there at the top on receipts. Okay?
Do what?
That 493,000 is up there on receipts. And then it's is under receipts, and then it's spent out down here on the bottom in expenses. 325 goes to the main, that's what, we're not doing a loan payment or, you see what our month
I
or
don't have
yearly
a problem
payment.
with that, Jason.
It's paying it outright like we did, I think it was precinct 3's equipment.
Yes.
We paid it, we just paid it.
Also in precinct 1, we paid it out. Precinct 3 paid it out.
It's 200, I got it over there, it's 200, it's 300 something $1,000.
It's the same way in the budget cost, Judge. It shows each precinct with $15,000 in equipment. Except for precinct 1, and precinct 1's been zeroed out.
Well,
So if we're gonna try to keep it balanced with these precincts on money wise out of this road and bridge, then you ought to divide it out.
Well, if we're gonna do that, I mean, I should have got a maintainer years ago.
Yeah, you spent 100,000 on one last year on fire, did you not?
Insurance.
84,000,
Insurance.
but still he spent $84,000.
Didn't spend anything at the entrance.
But I mean, all I've gotten is the belly dump and that haul truck is all I've gotten in new equipment.
I'm not.
Well, I mean, if you brought up being
I haven't said
fair.
one word about your equipment, have I?
No, what you're saying being fair, I'm just saying we should have done this years ago if we're gonna be fair. We were doing the needs of the county.
That's exactly right, and I agree, we need it. And I hadn't said one word about the maintainer. If you need it, you need it. So I'm just asking, how it's been funded?
it's being funded through cash coming down from Road and Bridge. Now, is your question, you want $15,000 of equipment money because everybody else has
No, sir.
$50,000?
I had to buy cutting blades, I'm already down to nothing, and most of us save our money making sure we have enough money in the budget side. I've been cutting another 20,000 on my budget. You took out 5,000 on the miscellaneous, and that's how I got to pay off the repairs. That's all the money I have left. I got a little bit of fuel left, a little bit of money, not much. But cutting another 20,000, I'm afraid my budget, that's your budget, it's not my budget. I submitted my budget to you, and it's been changed by what you thought I needed.
Okay, and just to get to the point, you're saying you need
Getting the
$20,000.
$259,000 to serve 109 miles. That's with two people. That's like serve maintaining the roads from Gulfway, Texas to Austin, Texas, with $259,000. I don't think that's I can do it. That's my complaint.
I was at 240. That's what, 14,000 left. That was the most roads you got.
Correct. Whatever the difference is, I had 279 last year, and that was cut
Well,
369. Now this year's cut from 279 to 259.
if you'll remember, it was cut last year because you voted against the round of the budget that had the money in it. And so if you
I
had
didn't
voted
keep
for it, it
it
would have
back,
been.
like all persons do.
Of the 50 something that was cut, the big reason is the pickup. This is just a very bad time to be trying to buy a pickup
I
truck.
don't have a
The
problem.
rest of the equipment is in Road and Bridge.
I'm just saying I have a 10-year-old pickup that I'm fixing to have to spend $4,000 on because ABBS system's out on it. It's unsafe to drive. The check engine light's out of it. The motor on the driver's side's out of the window, and I don't mind driving it, but I don't know the safety of it. That's the issue. If I spend that kind of money, I don't know if I get a return on for that. Judge, that's the only deal reason I put a pickup in it. The trailer that I've asked for now for 4 years, its capacity on it is 31,000 pounds. My equipment is 141,000 on my track loader and my doter's 40,000.
You said that twice over the last
Yeah.
month.
So,
And I've told you that that trailer is in Road and Bridge to be bought by the county and used. And so it's available to you.
Put it in my budget. then.
Well, it should be a county asset. We don't need to fill up each one of our 4 precinct yards with duplicate equipment. Because it can't all get used
I
at
can't
once.
spend anything unless it's in my budget.
well,
You don't need to spend it if it's available to you. If we have the trailer and you can use the trailer doesn't need to be in your budget.
I mean, to me, I put a trailer in mine too, so a haul trailer. And so I don't mind if we're gonna share. I don't mind if it stays in your yard all the time. I mean, we don't use them surely we can call and
Didn't you have a trailer in a truck that you bought last year or year before?
I'm like you. Every precinct's just like you on that haul trailer though. That haul trailer, we're not up to the license on that trailer when we haul that equipment. And so we need one for the whole county that we can haul a piece of equipment. But I don't move that loader every day, so if I had to wait a day or so to get the trailer, it wouldn't be that big a problem.
Well, they had the same problem with the water truck, did they not? Maybe the only one having and Jed said he bought one this year, so.
Again, that's in this equipment because we also, several of us talked about getting.
I think it's a good move, we need it, everybody needs it.
But we can get a haul trailer and a water truck still for this 100,000. Or am I wrong on that? How much did your water truck cost?
Mine cost 28,000.
There's one in Brownwood for sale right now for 35,000. Yes, sir.
I bought all my stuff secondhand through the state, they were in good shape, they kept them up and maintained, and they're all
Yeah, state is
35 years, 37 years old now.
the state's going to a different, they're going to a private company now instead of doing it like when you did that. They don't do that process anymore.
I don't have anything. That's all.
I really like this, Dale.
What about the cost of the maintainer? The last one we bought a year ago was maybe $100,000 less. The one that Robert Hallway.
Hang on just a second. I'll get it.
They told me 315, but I wasn't here.
The one bid was 273. Now, again, these were back in May, so they have to be rebidded because they only last one month.
Makes it hard working.
275 is the other one.
And what do we have? I think we have.
And then I asked for the other was in there is the swinging bridge camera system that's also under that too.
What was that, 275? Was that a finance price?
No, none of them are finance price. But if you want to go back further than that, I got a bid a few years ago that was less than 200 for the first time I ever put it out for bid.
What do we put on a grader each year, an average in terms of hours?
I think if it needs it, it's a need for it, Judge. I don't have a problem with.
500 hours at least.
That was the point I was trying to get to.
No, I'm just,
Why my budget was changed such, well, it's not my budget, it's your budget, so.
what's the county's budget ultimately, and you're gonna get to vote on
This
it.
is not what I submitted.
Well, that's right. It's not what anybody
Go to the
submitted.
Bible.
We've got to take,
Every court where we can discuss those.
Well,
issues.
what I gave you, I think showed that.
I asked that information 3 weeks ago.
Well,
Let's see,
it's
37
available.
trade.
Everybody else got it. I don't know what happened. You're welcome to come by my office.
Thank you.
And I'll send it to you electronically.
Yeah, May the 3rd.
One thing this does though is puts the burden on the commissioners to figure out how to share or allocate the road and bridge budget. I mean, and I don't think Commissioner's right. Commissioner Wright's approach is just divided by 4 is the right answer. It's gonna be who can get the projects and execute them, and maybe where the worst road needs in the county are.
So could we get together and do like what you're saying is you're recommending that we get together. Let's say let's say, I'm just, for instance, work 4 10s. That's a 40-hour week. And then on Friday, we all get together and work 1 road or somebody, and then you get your 10 hours there.
Are
And
you
that's
trying to
an-
make a unity system, Jason? Is that your idea?
No. I'm just trying to figure out
That's
how,
what it sounds to me. I have worked in precinct 1 that the people elected me to do, and my hands work in precinct 1.
I'm just, he's giving us extra money to use extra time. I thought we might work together, do 1 every month.
Well, precinct 3, they take off 4 days a week, but they're not 10 hours a day, so how they work on Friday?
That's where the overtime money would come in.
But, I mean, I think it would be productive, just like you guys, the commissioners got together to get budgeted input maybe a month ago to do a workshop periodically on road projects and try and coordinate.
I think the other 3 commissioners did get together. I wasn't available. I talked with Jason, and
Right.
it was more or less a wish list. I told him I
Yes.
didn't have a wish list. I had a necessity list. And I gave him that, pick up in the trash, and not,
And it was
rest of
just,
it's a wish list, I guess.
Okay. Any other discussion on the precinct and road budgets?
I would think, and it's not for the unity deal at all, but to utilize your better equipment within anybody's precinct, if you had a 2-3 mile stretch of road, if you got all precincts together 1 day a month, their hands, and you use their haul trucks and you haul the material, the commissioner and his hands of that precinct could go ahead and finish that project during the week. But you get your material out there quicker to have it worked on. That could be the overtime deal or however you want to do it, but I don't think that's referring back to the unity system. The biggest thing for a commissioner with 2 hands is try to haul enough material to cover a road very quick. It takes time. But if you're doing that, you really have to purchase material. As far as all 4 getting together all the time, I'm afraid you'd probably be running over each other.
We've done it before.
Yeah, I mean, Jason lent me his guys in January or, well, I don't remember when it was, maybe March, with the haul truck. And man, we got a lot of material moved in a couple of days.
When we got that material off that substation out there. We helped Jason. What did we haul? 100 loads in 3 days?
yeah.
Yeah, 100 loads
I
ago.
don't think nothing wrong. I can't see anything wrong with that.
I don't think that's supporting the unit system. I think it's just trying to get something accomplished. Precinct.
So would we have to have a vote on this? How would we, I mean,
No.
what is your recommendation? How
Well,
would
first of all, we
use-
can't vote.
No. I mean, how would we use this extra money, extra
Well, it's.
Your material, you see what I'm saying?
There's material, there's equipment, there's overtime, there's road improvements, it's all in road and bridge. I think, I mean, what we need to do, separate from the budget, is having some, and we can make it in the form of a motion and act on it by the court, is going to be to create a protocol for spending the road and bridge money. And I can draft that, or you guys can draft it, but my proposal, my thought would be, there's 4 of you, takes 3 out of 4 to agree on what you do with the money in road and bridge, and then you just do it. I mean, from the county's financial perspective, it's allocating the money, it's getting the taxes or the financial side of it together, it's dedicating it to county road infrastructure. And then it's up to the commissioners to how you execute it. But I'd be glad to draft that if that would help. But that's a governance document as opposed to a financial budget.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm just trying to make sure we're on the same page here.
Would you be comfortable with something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how we're gonna say, well, I'm gonna get this money
Yeah.
out of this account.
Well, I think from my perspective on the county is this is a lot of money. We want to see it not sit in the bank. We want to see it in the roads and to the benefit of our citizens.
Man, this would be nice.
This would also include like the concrete crossing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a different I mean, maybe it got lumped.
Yeah, that one on 549 needs to be fixed.
Yeah, you see, it says road materials and improvements. That's about half and half between materials and improvements, but the improvements would be, we've done low water crossings and concrete. That's an example. Anything else you need to do other than just buying caliche?
Road materials, I don't know how the other damage is doing, but it's, I try to buy 10 horns for the precinct across my county roads. I try to buy delineators that I can put up, reflectors. That's what I kind of spend with road materials, plus materials. This is the first year I bought material.
Speaking of materials, did that stuff get delivered from the state?
Get it in my.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else we haven't beat on in the precinct road and bridge budgets? Let's see. So next Monday.
Interject something real quick, since y'all were discussing the budget. I heard that y'all were gonna discuss the jail and law enforcement budget Monday.
Yeah.
So I have a medical procedure Monday, so if y'all have any questions right now, Chris and Stephanie should be here Monday to represent our budgets. But
Okay.
if you have a question today of me, now would be the time to ask it, because I won't be here.
I didn't come prepared to go over that budget today, so
I didn't realize, this is the first I've heard of it, so I didn't realize it was being discussed,
Yeah.
or I wouldn't have made the procedure.
Okay. If anybody's got, are you around all week, Sheriff?
Yeah, I'm here all week.
Okay, so yeah, if anybody's got any specific questions, just give Clint a holler. And then I appreciate Stephanie and Chief Deputy Green being here Monday.
I didn't even bring mine, so yeah, I have to.
Okay. Number 12, discussion of process for community input on subdivision. We can appreciate we had to put the subdivision new ordinance aside to deal with the existing subdivisions in the budget. We've talked about this before. It wasn't on the agenda, so here it is on the agenda. If anybody wants to talk about how we get community input.
We all supposed to appoint a couple people, more or less, to that thing. And I just thought in essence of time, how we could go ahead and have whoever you asked to be on your part of that, what they've come up with, and we'll get Jackie to compile it. And that'll just save us 2 or 3 steps in a meeting or two, just, get back in the swing of things a whole lot quicker. I don't think we need to be delaying it, that subdivision ordinance any longer than we have to. I think we need to get it done. I don't want to mess around on next year to get it done.
Judge, does Jackie have time to do that compiling, or is she, this is gonna be adding to her workload?
I think we can handle it. I can't do much on it till we get past the budget, but we've got, in just, I'd say 3 weeks, we'll be seeing the light at the end of the tunnel on the budget and tax rate side. And we'll have, I think we have already run the ad in the newspaper. We'll have a public hearing 2 weeks out. And after that, we can start voting on things, but,
I mean, I don't, not put a deadline in order, it has to be in by this. I just think it would speed things up if we already had that done.
So you think we need to give our 2 people a copy of the revised subdivision, let them go over it, just have a meeting with them too?
yeah, I think I've got the revised, whatever the last revised one was on the website.
It's on the website.
And I haven't had time to even touch it since.
So what we're saying is each commissioner meet with their 2 representatives. He dropped something.
That's okay. It was-
2 representatives, and then that, after they meet with them, then they can give that to Jackie, and then Jackie will compile a list or a synopsis of the business. Is that what you're wanting to do? Yes?
I think that was Jed's
Yeah,
recommendation.
basically.
You want it written form and signed by the representative.
They don't have to be written form, it's not, you put on big cheap tablet.
Well, you want it written, you said the last time you want it written.
Would it be a whole lot easier?
Well, I mean, Jackie can't transcribe it unless we give it to her in some form.
It's gonna have to be written down. Or whoever transposes it, it'll have to be in writing. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I can meet with mine and compose something, and then have them sign it.
Mike, if you're out of pocket, I mean, you sent me those 3 names. I can email them and invite them to maybe send me.
Well,
Notes or
I'll talk
something.
to one of them.
Okay.
I had talked to others, but if I'm not here or available,
Yeah,
I'll let them come by your office, talk with Jack. and
Okay.
let her-
yeah,
Let her get their information and make them sign.
okay. Yeah, it's not so much signing it. I don't think we're trying to have any testimony here. It's
Well,
just
no, that's-
gathering it.
Make
Yeah.
sure that-
And-
Kind of like a complaint, it's not a complaint, it's a sign. And I think same way there are suggestions,
Mm-hmm.
the county should have their name, and I think they'll do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. We ought to have the name. Okay, well, we'll proceed then. Okay, commissioners' request and reports. Commissioner Wright?
TechStop did start delivering material today. Instead of 32 loads, it's down to 28 now, and they're not going to deliver 3 loads yet, so. not that-
Was there any explanation on the reduction?
Money, what's allocated, money, the cost of material, cost of drivers, cost of all.
So if we get the same amount of money, it's,
Yes. it's-
prices went up, so we get less.
Yes. And it's not-
That doesn't make sense. 3 loads.
It's, they're higher, but I told you from ground to here, they're being charged $119 a ton.
And it doesn't make any sense. They only do 3 loads a day when they still got to do 3 loads the next day. They still got to do the same amount of material. So why would it matter how many loads a day do they do? Yeah, I don't
But it makes it hard on us.
Yeah.
I have to pilot, I have to have somebody out, like I have self out in the morning, except for my loads. And they first told me they were gonna haul all loads one day.
Well, I mean, we all volunteered to come help. So, I mean,
Two days tomorrow, I say.
well, I can, yeah.
And then next day, Dale's the next day,
Yeah, I mean, we made that offer for several years. So, I mean,
we don't have. y'all brought fuel this time.
Yeah, we can easily,
What's taking place? I turned down the offer.
but there's still only 3 days, 3 loads a day.
Sit
It
there
doesn't make
all
any
day
sense.
long. I mean, that's the sad part about it. Sit there all day long, that one individual, except in 3 loads, but that's all they said. That's textile.
They need to shop around a little bit more.
Yeah,
Well,
Well,
it was coming out of.
go look at-
San Antonio.
go look at, go look what TxDOT did, 574. You think they were pretty skimpy on their chip material until I said, oh, there's a lot of tar showing, so.
Also, I have, one or two maintainers, water pump now, I want to get it fixed. I'm waiting on the price right now. I've got to call in to Larry Gore to repair it. And I did go down, Jim bought the brush cutter. This week or last week, yeah. And I went down to the law enforcement center and I mowed all that, I covered that one day. So they could, judge or whoever y'all want to go look at, a place to build the building. It's cleaned up, that we got to see what's going on. And that's all I have.
We hauled some material on some roads, fixed a couple of bad spots that been running over the road. Fella donated, well, 2 different guys donated a bunch of material. We got that all fixed on 235. And, working on some equipment, trimming trees and stuff like that.
Yeah. Mr. Parton?
Right now, we're about through with all the washout, fixing to start moving the equipment back to Mullen. Worked down the Mullen area for a while, but right now the service truck is in the shop over at Zephyr. We're supposed to get solenoids for the one maintainer today. Maybe we'll get them tomorrow. The combination brush cutters out there at John Deere house being repaired. The rock grinders over at Kirby Moore's being repaired. So basically we're waiting to get a bunch of equipment repaired.
Sounds like a good time to be sitting in precinct 1 waiting for material.
That's exactly right.
Commissioner Williams?
Last week we repainted the ends of the swinging bridge that got graffitied all over. We don't know who did it because they were wearing dark clothing and did it at night, and those deer cameras just don't pick them up. But some of the landowners down there didn't like what they said, so they went ahead and painted them black. So it looked pretty bad. So we went ahead and repainted all those. They also did graffiti on some of the bridges and stuff, so we're finishing that up today on the graffiti cover up. Also, a few landowners are mad at the swinging bridge because they're hauling hay across the bridge with tractors, but there's not much I can do about it. I think they're underweight with the tractor and the weight of the hay bales, but it still doesn't look good for the bridge being overused like that. Several meetings, of course, we talked about the appraisal board. The Hill Country Community Action Meeting has been moved to the end of the month instead of this week. I'm not for sure of the circumstances. They still haven't decided whether they're going to do it in person or not, Judge. I don't know if you've heard that, but they're getting worried about the COVID in several areas, and I think that you're probably going to attest to that in a minute. But so several of my meetings are going back to the Zoom transportation type thing. So other than that, just doing some road work and repair.
Okay. A couple of things related to EMS. I talked to Chief Deputy Green Friday and have a meeting planned with the staff there. I'm not sure who all will be involved, probably the sheriff and Ms. Brown. Attempt to identify the issues in the EMS dispatch dispute from the sheriff's perspective, and then come up with a strategy on the Mills County side before we have a similar meeting with EMS. So I should have a report next week on what those issues are. And if there's anything really germane, I'll share them in advance. Commissioner Parkin, I'll check with you on your schedule, but I'd kind of like to have a neutral third party present just as a witness. So if your schedule permits to join that meeting. EMS over the weekend is continuing to raise issues on the current ambulance barn. I know they could talk to Commissioner Guerin about the idea of a temporary building. What I'm hearing now is that they are having employee health issues that are being blamed on the current ambulance barn. And they want to put at their expense a temporary building on the site we have behind the law enforcement center. If the county will do the site work and stub in the utilities, so that's a city discussion in part, then they would put in their temporary ambulance building there to be able to get away from the current station. And they would operate out of their temporary building, paying for the utilities until such time as a permanent building got planned and built. So that's what they would like to do. Getting to a permanent building, although we have kept the funding potentially through the Rescue Act grant, it's going to be a long process. I mean, architects, bids, all the things you have to go through on a big public project. So them throwing up a temporary building may be a good approach. On COVID, it's starting to look like last year all over again. We have 22 active cases in the county. 9 of them have been occurred in the last 7 days, including over the weekend. The most immediate issue I'm seeing or being reported to me is hospital availability, with emergency rooms being backed up. In some cases in Northeast Texas, emergency rooms have actually closed. ICUs are full or effectively full, and it's a combination both of volume and staff issues for the nurses. I read, and it was I think in the Brownwood paper, where there's a spot market for nurses and money's being thrown around at sometimes 3 times the current wages from a hospital that's short trying to get anybody to come there to work. So this is going to be a real problem, and it's leading to elective and in some cases not so elective surgeries being postponed. So this is going to do nothing but get worse, and school's fixing to start. Budget talked about, we'll have the law enforcement teed up for next Monday. I'll get as much information as we can pull together out Friday with the packages. And then we have noticed a public hearing on Monday, the 23rd. This is a required step. We have to give the public the opportunity to come in and tell us what they think about the proposed budget and the proposed tax rate. So I'll try and have a proposed tax rate to share with everybody next time. It won't move around much, even as we move budget numbers around, because a lot of the budget funding is coming from grants and fund balances. So moving those is not going to affect the tax rate. It looks like, continues to look like, it will be a no new tax rate budget that's actually maybe 2 cents less than the current year. That's a little deceptive because our INS budget is down, and that's a component of your tax rate. With the payoff of the courthouse renovation bonds, that component of the INS budget goes away. So that just automatically lowers the tax rate without a very small amount, without affecting the no new tax rate or the voter approved tax rate component. So it's going to be incredibly complicated, all this talk about transparency in tax rates and voters' knowledge. it's just incredibly confusing. We've got 22 pages of schedules to how I'm calculating the proposed tax rate.
Still looking behind 67 cents a hundred.
No, actually, I think it's close between 57 and 58. I
I
believe.
had that question asked.
Yeah, I mean, it's come down about 2 cents from now. It's a little, I'm going to try and present it, and I've got to run the legal traps as the all-in tax rate for the county. But because a part of it is county operations, part of it's debt service, part of it's road and bridge. But all the voters, I think, taxpayers care about is the number. And I'm going to try and get it to that level. That's all I've got. So if there's no further business, having spent an hour and 40 minutes on this, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?